Have you ever felt like your house was watching you? I don't mean someone peering through the window. I mean the house itself, its walls, its foundation, closing in around you, studying you, tasting your fear. Before last November, I would have called that nonsense. Paranoia. But now, sitting in a motel on the other side of the country, flinching every time the ventilation system rattles, I know the truth. Some houses aren't just haunted. Some houses are predators. And I made a colossal mistake agreeing to look after one. My name is Marcus, and if you've found this channel, if this video somehow uploads before the lights start flickering again, know this. It is not fiction. It is evidence. My Uncle Gerald owned a house in the suburbs of Pittsburgh, an old Victorian, the kind real estate agents call charming with character, and everyone else calls a damn haunted mansion. We weren't particularly close, so when his lawyer tracked me down 3 months after my uncle's death, I was surprised. It turned out my uncle had left me the house, not to sell, not to rent, to live in. According to the terms of the will, I had to spend exactly 30 days in the house, taking care of it, after which I would receive all the property, including a very substantial bank account. The lawyer, a dry little man named Cobbett, handed me the keys and my uncle's old leather-bound journal. "Your uncle insisted you read the instructions before entering," he said, looking at me over his glasses as if I were already a dead man. I laughed. A house instruction manual? What nonsense. But alone in the car at the gate, I opened the journal anyway. There was just a single spread inside, filled with my uncle's feverish handwriting. Rules for residing at 14 Willow Creek. Rule number 1, do not turn off the second-floor hallway light, ever. If the bulb burns out, replace it within 60 seconds. Spares are in the drawer under the stairs. Rule number 2, knocking in the walls is not rodents. Do not knock back, no matter what you hear. Rule number 3, if the doorbell rings at 3 in the morning, do not open the door, even if you see a child through the peephole asking for help. Rule number 4, check the basement every morning. If the dirt floor is damp, leave the house as quickly as possible and do not return until sunset. Rule number 5, never, never say the name Elijah inside the house. I read it 3 times and laughed out loud. Uncle Jerry had completely lost it at the end. The first 2 nights were almost boring. I followed the rules more out of lazy curiosity than anything else. The hallway light burned steadily, no knocking. At 3 in the morning, I was, of course, dead asleep. I went down to the basement every morning, dry, dusty, smelling of mold, and no Elijahs. On the 3rd night, I woke up gasping for air. It was 2:58 a.m. I know exactly because I checked my phone. The bedroom was freezing despite the radiators blasting away. And in that absolute silence, I heard someone coming up the stairs. It wasn't footsteps. It was dragging. The sound of heavy, wet fabric being pulled over wooden steps. Slurp. Pause. Slurp. Pause. I froze. The sound stopped right outside my door. I stared at the crack under the door, expecting to see a shadow. But there was nothing. The strip of light from the hallway remained steady. I sat there for an eternity, afraid to breathe. And then the doorbell rang. Right at 3 a.m. The chime was old, mechanical, straight out of a horror movie. Ding-dong, silence, ding-dong. And a child's voice, thin as a spider web, seeped through the windows. "Please, I'm so cold. Please let me in." My heart nearly leapt out of my chest. I grabbed my phone, tried to call the police, but there was no signal. I crawled to the window facing the porch and carefully pulled back the curtain. Down below, under the lamp, stood a small figure in a white nightgown, hair covering its face. It stood motionless, like a statue. I lurched back from the window before I could see its face. Rule number 3, don't open the door. Rule number 2, don't knock back. I clamped my hands over my ears and sat like that until dawn. With the first rays of sunlight, the ringing stopped. I went downstairs on legs that felt like jelly. On the doormat by the front door, there were no footprints, just a small puddle of water, and a smell, the smell of river silt and rotting flowers. That's when I decided, to hell with the inheritance, I'm leaving. But when I went to the front door, it wouldn't open. The lock wasn't engaged, but the door seemed fused to the frame. The windows wouldn't budge either. I rushed to the kitchen for the back exit, and that's when I noticed the basement door. It was ajar. I know I closed it yesterday. I remembered sliding the bolt shut. Rule number 4, check the basement every morning. I went down. The dirt floor wasn't just damp, it was wet. My sneakers came away with a squelch, covered in mud. And in that mud were footprints, small barefoot tracks leading from the far wall to the stairs. Child's footprints. They smelled of the river. I fled the house. The back door opened without a problem. I sat in my car until sunset, staring at the house, which no longer looked like a building but a massive, breathing stomach. I had to find out what happened there. Who was Elijah? Why did the rules seem so precise? I drove to the town library and dug through the archives, and then I found it. A newspaper clipping from November 14, 1953. Tragedy on Willow Creek, missing boy found dead. Elijah Parker, 7 years old, disappeared from his second-floor bedroom. 3 weeks of searching. They found him drowned in the basement of his own house, in a pool of water that had inexplicably appeared on the dirt floor. The article mentioned his mother, Margaret Parker. Neighbors said that after the funeral, she went insane. She covered all the mirrors and kept repeating that Elijah hadn't left, that he knocked from inside the walls, that at night he rang the doorbell, begging to be let back inside. I went down to the basement. In the middle, standing knee-deep in freezing black water that had risen from nowhere, stood him. Small, pale, with hands covered in silt. His eyes were like 2 murky lakes. "Why won't you let me in, Uncle Marcus?" he asked, and his voice came from everywhere at once. "I just want to come home. Say my name. Say it." I opened my mouth, and, God help me, I almost spoke it. The air had already formed the letter E on my tongue, because it felt so right, so simple. Just say the name. And then I remembered rule number 5. I don't know where the strength came from, but I screamed no and lunged for the stairs. I ran, and the water surged after me, flooding the steps. I slammed the basement door shut, pressed my shoulder against it, and heard something heavy and wet hurling itself against the wood from the other side, along with a child's laughter twisting into a howl. 3 days ago, I rented an apartment. Nice, bright, in a new building. This morning, I went to the bathroom and muddy water ran from the tap, smelling of the river. I blamed it on old pipes. But then, I went back to the bedroom and saw the wallpaper near the headboard bulging slightly. I walked over, touched it. It was damp. And there was a faint, barely perceptible knocking. Knock, knock, pause. Knock, knock, knock. 3 taps. Like a children's game. I'm just sitting here, staring at this stain. It's spreading. And I know that tonight, exactly at 2:58, I will again hear something wet climbing the stairs. Because I made one mistake. I shouldn't have said the name Elijah. And I didn't say it inside that house, but recording this video, I thought of him. I thought of Elijah. And that was enough.